All right, we're getting pretty close to track season and I haven't run anything over 20 meters with decent intent in my entire prep. So I'm heading in to do my first sort of extensive tempo running session. So just trying to build up some conditioning to prepare myself for some proper max velocity work. So just going to be getting some tempo strides in with my mate Sam, who's hopefully going to be joining me for my 4x100 relay coming up in November. But seeing as we're going in to do some tempo running, and I also had a post go semi-viral this week that was about zone 3 running, I thought it would be good to sort of tackle this straw man that's constantly brought up in the fitness industry, of this whole idea that you should never be training in no man's land, or that there's no value in the middle ground of training. Everything's got to be super polarized. You know, I think this methodology was really polarized in the track and field or strength and conditioning world by a legend that is Charlie Francis. And don't get me wrong, like, I think a polarized approach to training can absolutely be appropriate for a lot of athletes, especially high level athletes. But I've also just had a lot of personal experience, both with myself and the people that I work with, getting making tremendous gains in the middle zone, whether that's zone 3 work for conditioning, whether that's medium tier plyometrics, whether that's moderate sub-maximal strength work. So yes, as much as I appreciate a polarized approach to training or a high-low model, I also think that there's plenty of gains to be made in what a lot of people sort of regard as no man's land. A bunch of you guys left questions down in my comment section on my last video, so I'll also go through those. So like I said, the training, or at least the start of it, gonna give you a bit of a preview of this tempo session that I'm running with Sam. I'm heading into the gym to train my mum, so I'll show you a little bit of what her strength and conditioning looks like, and then I'll have my afternoon weight session to do as well, so you'll get an insight into all that stuff. Hope you enjoy the video, and if you have a question you'd like me to answer in an upcoming video, leave it down in the comment section. Me and Sam are both pretty unfit. Sam's actually normally a pretty quick and strong bloke. What's the workout?
So start just with a little warm-up jog, just walk the curves, jog the straights, a little bit of a dynamic stretch warm-up, maybe a few plyos, and then the session we're doing basically a derivative of what I used to do when I did athletics. So 7 laps, where we'll go basically stride the straight 50 to 75%, walk the curve, you know, keep it to maybe a minute or so rest between the run. 7 laps, 100 meters, kind of 50 to 75% efforts.
And so broadly speaking, other than just to get some strides in for both of us, which we haven't done much running lately, but it's sort of, you'd look at this as like building the work capacity up so you can do some, and the conditioning up so we can then do some higher quality max V work down the line.
Yeah, so this is pretty much like a conditioning sesh, just very broadly, but it's kind of building almost like a speed endurance base. And they're only 100 meters right now, but we're not that fit and not conditioned to running. So, you know, you can change this session any way you like, but for us, it's just about getting a few reps in the legs, turning them over, just running for more than 10, 20, 30 meters.
That's real no man's land shit. And can you go over, so what's your max clean and jerk snatch and PB 100?
So max clean and jerk in competitions 165.
No one gives a fuck. Give us your training numbers.
In training 180.
Nice.
Max snatch training 137, 133 in comp.
Fuck, never got the 3 blues.
Nah, maybe soon. And then max back squat 232.5 for 2. I don't often do 1 RMs. What was the other one?
Fastest 100.
Fastest 100. Unofficially 10:39, but
pretty quick.
10:85.
Fuck, you would have beat Marcel Jacobs at Worlds this year.
Probably gets back like 3 weeks. I think so. So you hard launched the other relationship, or were you already privy to that? Yeah. Like 6 weeks.
All right, track session's done. Now I'm at the gym training my mum. Mum's not going to be mic'd up because we're respecting her privacy, but that's her. So I'll just take you through some of the shit that we get up to together. Because mum is training to live longer and with a higher quality of life, but she also works with a disabled population who occasionally need physical assistance. So mum can't be afraid of a little bit of heavy lifting. Because sometimes she needs to lift people up off the ground, and that can obviously be quite intense. And she's also fighting the war against sarcopenia. Apparently lifting weights cured mum's osteoporosis. osteoporosis. Now she just has osteopenia. Mum starts her sets at about 15 kilos. So we start with the women's weightlifting bar propped up on some plates. So I usually find a red plate and a yellow plate usually equals about where the bar would typically rest, or the same height if you're lifting with standard plates. And so Mum historically hasn't loved barbells, but it's just getting to the point with her strength training where it's awkward for her to progress her weights with kettlebells. Like she ends up doing things like throwing ankle weights on it and things just dangling off her kettlebell. So at this point, it's just safer to use a barbell. All right, Mum, let's do a set of 5 to get warmed up. So Mum just did a bit of light cardio to get warmed up. Nice, amazing form. All right, so now we're at 20 kilos for a set of 5. So we've got some little plates on the end. So just lifting off a red plate now. And then the next set should be off the floor because she'll be up around 25 kilos. We'll see how this feels for her. Again, the reactive approach, I don't just use it with my high level experienced lifters. I also use it with people like my mum. How hard did that feel on a scale of 1 to 10?
7.
Like if you had to save Leroy.
6.
Yeah, so. Do you want to go heavier?
A little bit.
Okay, so that's the thing. Me and Oscar gave Mum a horrible experience deadlifting, so now it's her experience. She's in charge of when we put up the weights. Because as much as we can talk all this shit about, oh, humans are really resilient and we're very adaptable, if someone's nervous about something and you push them into it and they do have a bad experience, like, it's just going to be so hard to win their trust back, as I experienced trying to win back the trust of my mum. So we are going to go a bit heavier? Awesome, okay. Do you want to make the same jump again, or do you want to make less than that? A little bit less, all right. So that's the thing, we probably won't lift off the floor today because we can't really lift off the floor until we go to 25 kilos. So we're at 20 kilos now, we're going to go to 22 and a half. One of the bad experiences was making Mum lift 50 kilos on her 50th birthday. Not that funny really. Funny now that she's over it. All right, so this is a set of 5 at 22 and a half kilos. Nice. So another reason why we're being a bit conservative this week is Mum has had 1 or 2 weeks off lifting heavy in the gym with me as well, because I went on a little bit of a holiday. But now we're back into things more consistently. I reckon in another 2 weeks or so, Mum will be back to lifting off the floor, pushing 25 kilos plus for reps. All right, anyway, I'll check back in with you after deadlift. For any of you clients who struggle with like full range squats, especially like elderly clients, I love this like Hatfield bodyweight squat setup. So got heel elevation, and we've just got a bar in the rack that's adjustable. We're actually using this as a sweet superset. So we can still expose people of all kinds of physical abilities to full range squats. You just got to have a good setup for them. All right, and then so the other thing we're pairing this with is push-ups. So I don't like a lot of push-up progressions for people who can't do regular push-ups. I just love sticking the bar in the rack, again, because it's so incrementally adjustable, and we can just, because again, the push-ups on the knees, they don't feel good for anyone. Whereas this is super scalable. You know, you can go from like basically completely upright using barely any of your body weight to then just incrementally bringing them down as you need. And the technique just stays the same for them. There's no point where you've got to be like, all right, well now we'll go from your knees to doing it on your toes. It's just on the toes the whole way. Phenomenal exercise. So then, I don't know, this is like a warm-up set. So we'll just bump it down a notch on the next set. Macro dosing creatine. She's talking about she had a big weekend and she was meant to relax yesterday, but then she took too big of a scoop of creatine monohydrate and ended up cleaning the whole house. So you can speak to the cognitive effects of a big creatine booster.
More energy.
Yeah,
yes.
Wow, there you go guys. More than 5 grams a day, it'll do crazy things for you. All right, Mum, last set of your squats, then into your push-ups. And then, so after this, we'll just move through basically mostly machine work. We'll do seated hamstring curls, we'll do some lat pull downs or some seated rows, and then we'll finish off with some arms and then send her home. And that's what we do with Mum's S&C session. It's just a full body strength session, mixture of free weights and machines. I really like machines for these populations as well. Unfortunately, there's just some machines that aren't really built for certain people. Like Mummy's not very tall and she doesn't have a lot of muscle mass. So sometimes like even just like the sled weight on a leg press will be a bit too much, or the rack height on the hack squat will be a bit too much. So like I said, mostly using machines honestly where they work and taking advantage of the benefits that they offer. But then sometimes a good free weight setup, or even here, we're still employing the principles of machine work, right? Like she has options to use stability where she needs it, but then obviously certain setups just aren't as customizable as we'd like in machines. So then, like I said, leveraging our free weight setups. So typically after my sprinting work, I get straight into heavy calves and hammies, but I'm actually inverting the structure of that workout because I want to go back to hitting my biceps or doing all my arm work earlier in the session, just so I can put more effort into it in an attempt to grow my pipes. But yeah, if you're interested in training the same way I train, you can join the team training. There's a link for that down below. You get a free week and it only is $27 a month, and you get access to me for form checks. You can ask questions. You'll have 100 other odd ones getting excited whenever you hit a PB. So the community support in the team training chat is through the roof at the moment. So if you get involved on the team training, definitely don't be afraid to ask questions or ask for form checks, send videos in. We love that. It just drives the community aspect of the team training, which is an important part of it for me. It's good to feel like you're a part of something. There's an anabolic effect to that. And also, if you're interested more in my whole training philosophy, you can learn the entire thing. Click the link down below, and there's one for GPP Level 1, which is my course for trainers. That's also amazing value. Anyway, back to the workout. Let me try and work my way down the preacher curl stack. Also, don't stress if you don't have access to a preacher curl, because we actually just programmed a mid-range curl, which you can set up. I've got a video demo for that in the program. But very flexible program with plenty of substitutions if you're lacking access to good machines and things like that. All you need is a barbell and dumbbells, really. All right, while I'm resting, so back to the chat about like no man's land. Like I said, I'm not against a polarized approach to training. I think it works for a lot of people. I just don't want people to think that there's no gains with a moderate effort. So some training examples recently that have been getting great results for me and my clients that other people would stereotype as no man's land or the middle ground. Zone 3 conditioning. Heaps of my clients hitting really great 5K times, 5K PBs, 10K PBs, PBs in all sorts of adventure races and things like that, predominantly doing zone 3 cardio. And I say this as someone who has typically approached conditioning from a very polarized style. Like this has been a bit of a new shift for me, spending a little bit more time in those middle zones. Practically, what zone 3 ends up being for a lot of people is just a much more time efficient version of zone 2. So I'm a big advocate for zone 2 work, but like I said, on a time constrained schedule, if you're trying to maximize your cardio or conditioning gains, I just think zone 3 is a really, really practical intensity for a lot of people to work at, where they can maximize their mileage, where they can maximize the mileage with the allotted time that they have. For a lot of people, just sticking to zone 2 just means that they're not racking up as much mileage as they could recover from. And at the end of the day, if you want to be a good runner, mileage is king. Like I'm talking like longer distances. Mileage isn't king if you're looking to run 100 meters faster. But if you want big 5K PBs, big 10K PBs, you want to PI a half marathon, you're gonna have to chew through some mileage. And like I said, most people practically just eat up more mileage in zone 3 versus constraining themselves to zone 2 and then doing the odd threshold session or the odd higher intensity interval session. Again, I love all those other intensities as well. All intensities are valid when it comes to conditioning. Another great one is medium intensity plyometrics. So a lot of people, they sort of think of plyometrics as either extensive or intensive. I really like the Matt Watson system where there's light tier, medium tier, and ping tier. Or again, easy, medium, and hard. And again, a lot of people, they sort of either just do light, extensive plyometrics or they just go for ping tier stuff. But I really think that medium tier is good because it's at an intensity where you can actually handle a higher volume, and it's intense enough to actually stimulate that structural change. Like in my system, light tier plyometrics, I would sort of look at that as really useful for beginners when you're learning a new movement, or as a warm-up for more experienced people. But it's the medium tier where, like I said, there's enough, you're exposing them to enough intensity that you actually get a good training stimulus, but you can tolerate enough of those volumes to drive those structural changes. It's still challenging you from a coordinative perspective, especially if you get into more those single leg like bounds and hops and things like that. Like the medium tier of plyometrics is absolutely not no man's land. There's so many gains to be had there. Like even with the intensive or ping tier plyometrics, that's more of an expression of your athleticism. Obviously we're challenging coordination there as well, but a lot of that athleticism that you're expressing there probably has been built off the back of a lot of your moderate medium tier work, or at least if you're training with me. 4 more plates and then I'm full stacking this thing. Come on. That wasn't a pretty set, but I think it was stimulative. But yeah, for cardio and for plyometrics, that's where that middle zone is like absolute money for so many people. So one other example, so that like tempo running session that I did with Sam earlier, again, that's a great example. Like so many coaches get too Charlie Francis pilled and they're like, oh, if you're not running above 95% of your max velocity, you're definitely not improving your top end speed. Like, yeah, sure, maybe if you're dealing with someone who's trying to go from running a 10.05 to sub 10. But for people like me, and like I'm not that slow, like I've definitely hit close to 10 meters a second, which again, depending on who you ask, some people say that's slow as, some people think that that's pretty quick. Obviously in the grand scheme of things, it's not that quick, but that's the thing. Most of us are training average athletes or bad to average athletes. So they can make great gains in that middle zone, just doing a lot of extensive tempo running and things like that. It'll do wonders for their max velocity because a lot of those people, myself included, don't even have the conditioning to train max velocity appropriately. Like you get 2 quality reps in and then we're absolutely gassed. I don't know, there's so many things where you can't really regard the middle zone as no man's land. You don't need to polarize the shit out of absolutely every training variable. Now let's get into some of the questions that you have left in my comments section because some of them were great. All right, so on my video about how to get better at running without killing your gains, someone asked if there was any reason I go with the easy, longer workout at the beginning of the week and leave the faster intervals at the end of the week. No, just do it wherever it suits you. That's the whole point of individualization. Like, there's a certain amount of work that needs to be done, divide it up however it works for you. So there would have been individual reasons for me doing that for someone. Maybe they had less work shit going on in the back end of their week or less of their strength training or whatever it was. Do I program zones for all my runs or would I use RPE like weights? I just use RPE. I've never worn a heart rate monitor in my life, so I'm kind of talking out my ass when I talk about the zones. But yeah, it's not that serious. Use a heart rate monitor if you have zero self-awareness. Apparently I mentioned on my podcast with Ranger Strength that everyone should squat. This person's asking why. For example, BJJ athletes get a lot of compression on their spine during training. Feels that it might make more sense to just vertical leg press in the Smith machine, or am I coping? You're not coping. I would have liked to think that what I meant is you need to perform some sort of squat pattern in your training. That doesn't mean a squat like a back squat or a free weight squat specifically. I include leg press as a squat pattern. So that's absolutely fine. And that's a really good rationalization for why you might want to do a leg press movement or a machine-based movement over a free weight squat if you feel like it just saves you from a bunch of axial fatigue or axial compression because you feel like the boys are squishing you on the mats. Absolutely, that's not cope at all. That's just good decision making around your training and proper individualization of the training principles. Should you alternate which foot goes forward on your split jerk to keep the balance of both legs, or is it not worth it? I mean, do you change what arm you brush your teeth with every night? Do you swap what arm you open and close doors with? At a certain point, chasing symmetry just ruins your life. The only time where I think you really need to think about these things is when you're returning from injury and you've created this new asymmetry due to either muscle loss, detraining, or some sort of post-injury protective mechanisms where your body's trying to like shield that part of your body from stress. Outside of that, Honestly, more people need to accept asymmetry. Humans are fundamentally asymmetrical beings. No, you don't need to swap legs every time you do a split jerk, otherwise you're just gonna be a really average split jerker. Question, as a new trainer, I tend to get a bit lost on where I should be focusing my time in terms of education, also the methods to learn. For example, what were your methods for educating yourself on PRI, then to be able to talk about it in such depth? I just went down the rabbit hole, man. Like, consumed a lot of free content, looked through a couple of PRI manuals. There's a lot of PRI influenced strength coaches that I sort of mentored under for a little bit. I don't know, check out GPP Level 1 and I'll teach you the important principles. Like PRI, like if you're asking this question, you're probably the last person that needs to go down the PRI rabbit hole. You probably need the guardrails up a little bit. Let me teach you about human movement. Just do GPP Level 1. And especially in GPP Level 2, which is coming out this summer or winter for you in the Northern Hemisphere, that's gonna go a little bit deeper down the human movement rabbit hole. I just wanted people to have a good base understanding, which I provided in GPP Level 1 before we go down any silly rabbit hole. So for you, mate, don't worry about the PRI rabbit hole. Just pretend it doesn't exist. All you need to know is the rib cage exists. You shouldn't ignore the axial skeleton completely. And training in relative flexion can be valuable. Training a bit of protraction can be really valuable. Again, you don't need to go down the PRI rabbit hole to work that stuff out. In the clean and snatch, what percentage of the total power, oh my God, what the hell is this? In the clean and snatch, what percentage of the total power imparted onto the bar should come from pulling with the hands? Yeah, you should use your arms, including leg drive power that transfers through the torso and extended ups. What the hell is this question? So this person's basically just asking, should I smash the hell out of the bar with my hips, or should it, yeah, you're basically just asking, is it a brush or a bang? Honestly, either are fine, it's not that deep. But yeah, I like the way you phrased it, where your body's contact with the bar is just a natural consequence of like keeping the bar close to your body the whole time and hitting a decent amount of triple extension. Not that you need to maximally triple extend on all the Olympic lists, but you know, you should get at least a decent amount of hip and knee extension, decent amount of ankle extension. But yeah, you shouldn't be focusing on smashing your hips into the bar, because typically what that means is like you're just moving forward onto your toes, or you're shifting your weight forward too early. You definitely want to be bringing the bar to you a lot more, and your bar and your hips, or your bar in the case of a clean, the bar and your upper thigh just end up occupying the same space. If you're relying on the contact to get all your propulsion, you've probably got pretty suboptimal technique. All right, anyway, after I crush this last 2 sets of hamstring curls, I just got some lat pull downs and then a couple of mid back rows, and then I'm out. So like I said, if you want to train how I train and you like the look of this stuff, check out the team training down below. It's a really good deal. And if you want to learn from me, check out GPP Level 1. It's the best deal in continuing education for strength and conditioning coaches and personal trainers who want to get amazing results like me and the rest of the GPP Level 1 coaches. If you don't want to buy anything, please like and subscribe. All right, I'll see you next time. If you have a question, leave it down in the comments for the next video.